Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me. I'm making this video because of a couple of requests that I've received from the persons that have been purchasing fundaments from me. Not a lot of them, but there are a few of them, and I truly appreciate their support. This video is specifically dedicated to basically new fountain pen users or someone that haven't been using a fountain pen for a while. What I am recommending, it is specifically regarding the fountain pens that I'm making. However, most of the things that I'm mentioning in here are quite valid and true for most of the fountain pens out there that are using a cartridge converter type of fountain pen. Getting straight into it, if you by any chance have purchased a fountain pen from me, it would usually come in a case like this, or something similar. I like giving cases away just in order to protect your purchase, and again, depending on the budget and depending on the availability at that time, this type of cases will be different. Just open it up, and as you will open it, basically you will have an ink sample that should get you started. In this specific case, I have a blue ink. You will have let me get it out of here, a roll stopper. This one will have different kind of colors to it. Nothing is guaranteed, there will always be random. And the fountain pen, which will come inside this velvet protecting sleeve. Just pull it out, and this is your fountain pen. You can keep the sleeve if you want to protect your pen inside the case, and the case. For now, I'll put this aside. So basically, like I mentioned, we do have a roll stopper, very easy to use. Just put your pen like this. Usually you want to have the nib portion standing up, not down. And the ink, it does come in a Ziploc, only to make sure there are no mishaps during transportation and ruining the case or the pen. My pens are basically what they call a bespoke fountain pen. I personally like clean designs, and as such, my pens at this point in time do not have a clip. They're very simple and sleek, hence why you are getting a roll stop. For those of you that never used the fountain pen has three main components. The cap, that can be unscrewed like this from the fountain pen, the barrel, which can be unscrewed from the section like this, and the section. The section tends to be one of the most important parts of a fountain pen. It will basically hold your nib holder and your converter or cartridge if you prefer to use cartridges. However, your fountain pen should come with a converter, international type converter. The nibs that I usually use are using a JoWo nib unit type. If you want to take out the nib, you have to first remove the converter, and then you can easily unscrew the nib unit. In this case, I have a Kenwright titanium nib. This fountain pen is from my personal collection, and these nibs, I can offer them, but they're a little bit more expensive and people usually don't go for, but I enjoy them. And this, while doesn't look black like the regular JoWo nib units, this is basically a copy of the JoWo nib unit, and it will fit perfectly inside the section. Now, one thing to consider, usually sections are basically the most fragile component of any fountain pen, unless your fountain pen is made out of metal. In this case, my fountain pens are made out of resin. I pour the blanks, I make the blanks, and then I shape the fountain pens out of them. Again, if you remove the nib from this section, very simple, put it in, screw it in. Don't over tighten it, just tighten it enough until you feel that it's tight, and stop. Remember, you have plastic threads on plastic threads. Then place back your converter the proper way. If you want to use cartridges, you want to experiment with different things for whatever reason, you can basically remove the converter, clean it, put it in a safe place, and you can use either a short international cartridge or a long international cartridge. I don't have a short international cartridge, so that's why you see this one without basically the end in there, but the shape and the use will be exactly the same, so I'm using it as an example. The way you place it, basically it will be with a ball at the end, and you have to use the nipple of the nib unit to break that ball. So you just have to push that inside until you hear basically like a click, and then it should securely enter in there. It should be all the way to the end. Same with the long cartridge, and they both should fit without an issue. Going back to my converter, basically I like using converters because they are reusable and you don't have to waste that much plastic, which I kind of like. To use a converter is very easy. You just have to twist it in order to move the piston down. Once the piston is down, you place it in the bottle, then you move up, and that will suck in. Now, if it's the first time using it, the first time you'll have to basically prime the feed and the nib with ink, and as such you'll probably have a lot of air gap inside there, because as ink is being sucked, you kind of have to keep in consideration that that air is basically being moved up into your converter. So what I usually like to recommend is you have the piston all the way down, you put it in the bottle, you twist it about halfway up, then you go back down again with your nib and feed still in the ink bottle, and then you go all the way up. And then you should have a pretty much full converter. There will still be a minimal air gap, but not as much as the first time. I will demonstrate that a little bit later on. And once you did that, you put back the barrel, which screws in, and again, remember, plastic on plastic, don't overdo it. Feel is tight and stop, and then cap, and again, screw in, same idea, feel it's tight and stop. As you write, obviously you'll have to find your own comfortable position, but I do not have anything in here that will basically force you in a certain hand position, so if that's what you need, these might not be for you. And if by any chance the length of the fountain pen is not large enough, even though for me it's quite large, I mean, I have large hands and this length is more than enough for me even when drawing, you can basically post the cap. I try and make my fountain pens post all the time. I do have some mishaps sometimes, and I mentioned that in the fountain pens that are available. Anyway, basically that will make your fountain pen very, very large. It is not a lot top heavy, but keep in mind there is extra weight at the top regardless. This most probably will be much better for drawing or sketching or other things like this, because it will allow you to keep your hand up the pen quite high. And yeah, that's about it regarding how to use your fountain pen. It's just a matter of you getting familiar with it and enjoying it. Now, a few other things that I would like to talk to you about. Let's say that now you have finished the ink in your converter. What to do now? You could basically, if you're using the same ink, just put it back in the ink bottle, fill it up again normally, and then keep on using it without an issue. That won't require you to actually wash the pen. Now, these sections and these nib units that I'm using, unfortunately do not have a O-ring at the end, because this is the nature of the JoWo nib units. And as such, even though you make this tight, and I'm trying to make this as tight as possible when I'm making it, ink could still go basically in between the two parts because of capillary action, something that I cannot basically overcome without having either an O-ring there or by you placing a little bit of silicone grease, not something else, actual silicone grease at the base of the nib, making sure you don't actually put it on the nib. So you could have a little bit of silicone grease around the base of the nib unit, and that should help with ink getting in there. Nothing bad will happen, it won't affect the pen, you won't ruin it in any way. It's just that depending on the resin and how transparent or translucent is, you might actually see ink seeping in between the nib unit and the section. Some people find that unsightful, some people like that. It's good to mention so you know about it. And now let's say you want to use a different ink. Usually if you want to have a proper ink consistency when it comes to color, you do want to wash your nib unit and especially your converter. And the way you could do it, it's, and this is very important, do not use hot water. Hot water will deform and make the resin to be pliable. Usually I recommend to use warm luke water with a drop of dish soap. You can definitely use dish soap. That won't affect the resin in any way, or the metal, or the pen in basically, again, in any way. Do not use chemicals like isopropyl alcohol. That will actually dissolve the plastics on your fountain pen. So again, lukewarm water with a little bit of dish soap. Do not use chemicals. And the way you do it, you can basically have a cup with water and dish soap, place it in, and then you could just go with the converter up and down a couple of times, and then keep on switching the water until everything is clean. That can take a little bit of time. One other thing that I would recommend, you can basically remove the converter, remove the nib unit, and then what you can use is something like this, which is a bulb syringe. They are very cheap, you can buy them pretty much anywhere, and as you will see, they fit pretty nicely around that nipple. It's not a tight fit, so you'll have to press a little bit, but it's a pretty good fit. Let me get a focus in here. Alright, so basically it's a pretty good fit. So what you can do, you can fill this up with the water that you have in the cup, and then in a different cup you can place this there, press a little bit, and then just squeeze water through it. And eventually you'll probably have to do it maybe 2 or 3 times, and eventually the water will start running clean. If you use dish soap to clean it, you will have to use maybe another 2 or 3 pumps like this with just clean water to run it through, and make sure you don't have any soap on your nib unit. Things to consider, or better said, inks that you consider. The inks that I'm giving away, again, I can't guarantee the colors. This is basically based on the availability that I have at that point in time, but I usually have somewhere between 2 to 3 colors available. These are safe ink for fountain pens. There are a lot of inks out there. If you buy new ink, make sure that they specifically say that the ink is safe to use with your fountain pens. I like inks that don't have glitter or any other weird particles inside of them, because they can clog the feed and create a lot of issues. And in that case, you'll basically also have to take the nib unit and the feed in order to clean them separately when basically trying to change the ink, or your arrow ink, or your nib and feed are basically stuck with particles from that ink. I usually recommend do not, especially for newcomers, use clean, simple inks without particles inside of them, because that will require some extra work from you. Be willing to dive into that world of inks only once you are very comfortable with using, cleaning and taking care of your fountain pen. After you clean it, make sure you use paper towels to absorb the water from them. Water won't damage them, again, in any way, form or shape. But in order to help the water evaporate faster and you being able to use it faster, it's a good thing to do. And putting it back together, again, screw in the nib unit until it's safely in there. Push in the converter. Make sure that the piston is up when putting the converter inside the section, because sometimes, depending on the converter you are using, when the piston is all the way down, it could actually basically push on the nib, and as you push in there to get it all the way deep, you could potentially damage the nib unit. So don't overdo it. Basically just put it up, place it in, and you are ready to use it. Speaking of that, let me fill it up for you and you will see the process. Unfortunately, you'll have only the top view, but I'll try and show the steps between by removing it from the bottom. So like I said, you get the bottle, you get the pen in this configuration. You can put the piston down at this point in time. You can shake the bottle a little bit just to make sure if there are any particles in it, they will move in the bottle properly. Now try and do this in a very safe area where if by any chance you do a mistake and you knock it over with your hand and ink will spill everywhere, you won't make a mess of the things that you like and love. Once you start using fountain pens, you'll quickly figure out that basically ink, it's a badge of honor and is okay to wear it. I wear it proudly. Anyway, again, you place the nib and the section in the ink. You want this top of or bottom of the section to be in about yay much inside, at least. This way it creates basically a seal, and when you move the piston up, it will suck the ink. If you just keep it about here, air will rush this way and you'll never put ink inside your pen. Again, place it in the bottle, twist it about halfway up. I'm gonna try and not make a mess out of this. So basically your situation will be something like this until you start seeing ink inside the converter. Then you push it back down and you go back up. One other thing that I like to do is gently just run the feed on top of the edge of the bottle. So this way I get any extra ink that was on it down back in the bottle. And at this point, your section and nib should be like this. Section will have to be cleaned. Nib, some people like their ink on their nibs, so you can leave it like that. You don't necessarily have to clean it. However, what I recommend after doing this, the first thing you should do, not clean the pen, but put the cap back on the bottle. I had a few mishaps when I forgot to do this, and yeah, I knocked the bottle down while trying to grab the napkin. You could be probably more gracious than I am. And then, using the paper towel, just gently twist, grab your bottle, put it in place, and again twist. And this should basically give you a nice clean section to use. And again, don't be alarmed if you start seeing a little bit of ink inside the section. That's okay, it's normal. Again, because of the capillary action, it will be when you place this in the bottle, it will have some ink in there, and especially if it's a little bit more transparent, you will see that. And unfortunately, there's no way around it unless you use this silicone grease. Then place the cap back on. And that's it, your fountain pen is ready to be used. And to close things, I want to summarize a few things that again are very important to not do in order to make sure your fountain pen can be used for as long as possible. Again, do not use hot water. Use lukewarm water and use soap dish. Perfectly fine to clean the pen. Sometimes, when using your pen, depending how you use it, depending how you transport it, ink might get inside the cap. It's okay to put the cap under the running of water and just give it a few shakes to clean it. It's okay to use soap and lukewarm water on the cap as well, as a matter of fact, or on any part of the pen. You can use an ultrasonic, but again, make sure it's not using hot water. Some of the ultrasonics, they have an option to heat up the water. Don't use that. Pre-warm your water at the proper temperature, again, lukewarm. Put it in your ultrasonic with a dish soap that you want to use, and then just let it clean. Other things to consider, don't leave it in the car in the middle of the summer in the sunlight. Again, temperature will rise and heat will damage the resin. Don't leave it in the sunlight. Again, same idea. Don't leave it on the dashboard, on the window, in a plain sun. This thing will probably be completely melted when you come back. When transporting it, I strongly recommend to use the case that is coming with. It is up to you if you want to use the sleeve as well. I find the sleeve as a cool thing in order to kind of give it a little bit of buff and clean the fingerprints that you might put on the pen because of the velvety material. So if you want to use it, fine. If not, just easily put it in there. Make sure it's secure and ready to use. And you will also have space to put your roll stopper if you want to carry it with you. If by any chance you lose your roll stopper, as a hint and as a cool thing to use, the chopsticks holders are pretty cool, and you can find some interesting shapes if you want to use, or you can actually find pen holders that you can use on your desk. When using, because of how the pen is designed, even if you're using a roll stopper, I strongly suggest you to always use it on top of a flat desk, not an inclined desk, because the pen will roll. Even if it has the roll stopper, what's going to happen, the pen will basically move like this and eventually will slide. So always use your pen on flat surfaces or store them on flat surfaces. When storing your fountain pen, you can store it basically completely flat. Just be careful you won't roll out. I strongly recommend to use your roll stopper, and again, always try and find a position that keeps the nib up, not down. Down should always use for writing, carrying, transporting, and basically placing it on the desk. Always nib up. So try and find a way to make sure you always know when your nib is up. Otherwise, when you're transporting it, if you put it in your case and you don't know how you put it, and you put it down and you run with your bag, or if your bag drops for whatever reason, things like that, it could basically spill a lot of ink in your cap, because that's the nature of fountain pens. When you shake them, ink will come out of the pen. Good thing about it, the caps is pretty large, so it can hold quite a lot of ink in there, and you don't have to worry about it. Just be careful. With that said, I think these are pretty much the best things to know about your fountain pen as a first-time user. I'm sure a lot of people that have been using fountain pens and are seeing this video, they can give you even more hints in the comments below. If by any chance you have specific questions regarding my pens, feel free to contact me at this email address that you see on your screen. And yeah, thank you for joining me. Hope you found this very useful, especially if you are a new fountain pen user. And I wish you all the best and a wonderful night or day, whatever you are. Take care. Bye.